started? That's what I want to know.
Well, I was there about a month, wasn't I? In Big Sur, when Emil wrote me a letter from Alaska. He was working in Alaska and wanted to know if he could come down and help me. He said he'd do anything. Cook for me, take care of everything, the correspondence and all that. Just wanted to come down. And I said, yes, come. And he did.
Gentle warrior, with a heart of gold and a rainbow in your eye. Brave companion, do you see your world shining in the sky? With your body dancing like an arrow, spreading joy beneath your feet, and your hands, they wave like tall grass in the wind as you speak with the shyness of a small child and the wisdom of a sage. I tell you now, there is no reason to be afraid.
This is my good friend Emil White in Big Sur. The wonderful thing is the expression on his face.
Emil, this is for you, your spirit. I always had a special connection with Emil White. And always played for Emil when he would come and visit the baths at Esalen.
Well, it was 8 years ago when Emil came to us. He was not well, and he said, I want to leave something to the community. He wanted to leave a memorial to Henry Miller.
Emil knows my work better than I do, by the way. I can say, Emil, on what page did I say so-and-so, and he can answer. Yeah.
Part of the deal we had with him was that he would stay on as the caretaker, set up the library, do it the way he wanted to do it, and then we would carry on his work after he left. And Emil lived for that. He had this place open all week long, and he entertained a lot of people and enjoyed showing them around and telling them about Henry Miller. When Emil died, his will provided that most of his property would come to the land trust to be used here in the library, and the land trust board of trustees are going to honor that commitment and will carry on the library as Emil wanted it. And we're very pleased that Stefan came back to help Emil through his last months and to help the transition of the library until we can find a permanent caretaker. And I thank you all for coming.
I really miss my dad, and this was his place, and I know he's found a place in a lot of your hearts too. That's why you're here. Emil in some ways was an atheist and agnostic, and yet he was so totally into the brotherhood of man, just as his friend Henry was. We get to continue to try and manifest that in this world, and so it's really beautiful to have people come and gather. May these gifts of Mother Earth send Emil on a sweet path hereafter and leave sweet memories among those who remain behind to remember him, which is you and I.
I'd bring my guitar sometimes and sit and play for him. There was one song that he liked in particular. It's called Erev Shel Shoshanim. It's a song in Hebrew. It's actually a love song. And he'd like me to sing that. Erev Shel Shoshanim
I had the privilege of living with Emil here not too long ago. He was my mentor and my friend in Big Sur, my first friend. And Emil, too, was a culture hero to a lot of young artists and intellectuals and photographers, you name it. It's just a fountain of anecdote. Emil's own view of himself is unquestionably best embodied by the little painting of the stranger sitting on his suitcase in the middle of Astor Place in Greenwich Village, with his yarmulke and his sad young little Jewish face. The face of the eternal immigrant, lost, cold, hungry, and alone. Yet there is no self-pity in these memoirs. The overall tone is dignified, good-natured, and serene.
What I have to say is not about Emil and his girls. I know he had lots of them, and who's ashamed of that? What I have to say is about the beauty of his kindness. One stormy night, many years ago, Emil lived down at the end of Anderson Canyon Bridge. I worked on the highways, and we were out that night to keep the road open, as we always did. And about 10:30 in the evening, we come by Emil's house, and he was out there legging us down, telling us to come in and have a cup of coffee with a little spirits in it to put spirits back in us. And this is what I remember about Emil. His kindness to mankind. The song that's all things bright and beautiful, all things great and small. He was one of those creatures, like a lot of the rest of us. And I always remember that one thing.
And since I wrote it for his 85th birthday, I returned almost every year to sing Cup of Kindness for him, and I was glad to be here this last April for his 89th birthday. And it's pretty amazing to sing a song for somebody that you've written it for, and sing it to them and stare into their eyes the whole time. And that's what Emil and I did for his last birthday, this last April. Sat right here on his couch and with all the dancing ladies and all the spicy drummers hanging around, we just kind of took a break and we sang the song to him. So it's a toast for us today and what Emil stood for me, and that was kindness. I saw a shining light, warm and childlike in your eyes. Before I really knew you, I had a feeling down inside that your soul was made to feel and share life's pleasures, pure and fine.
You're a man that knows friendship the way others know their wine. And here's to a cup of kindness, a medicine so strong. From you I learned that love and friends forever keep you young. And here's to a cup of kindness.
But there's another side of Uncle Emil that hasn't been touched on, and probably many of you don't know about it. And that is Emil White, the businessman. He had told me about all these marvelous transparencies that he had acquired somehow, which I have forgotten now, and was planning to put out this book. And me being in the printing business, he wanted some help. Well, he was going to order 50,000 books, and the price was going to be in excess of $10,000. And he didn't blink an eye. And I said, Emil, how much money do you have? And he said, I don't have any. Well, I said, how are we going to print this book? And he just kind of kept staring at me with that kindly little smile of his, and he won me over. Well, the time payment ban worked on the basis that we would print the books, and then when he came to San Francisco to pick up the books, he would pay for what he had taken. So every month he would find someone of you nice people out here that had a pickup truck and come in and get a load of books and come back down here and pedal them up and down the highway from Santa Cruz to I don't know where. And each time he would bring a check. And you know, in a little over a year, he worked that off. And it wasn't shortly after that, he was back for another order. And it wasn't for those things that were happening, this building wouldn't be here today. This land wouldn't be here today. He was a damn good businessman. I helped a little bit too.
I met Emil about 40 years ago or so. When he was, he had a studio out on on Highway 1. It was called the Big Sur art studio, something like that. He lived alone. He had for hot water, he had a big tank overlooking his shack. Okay, I saw this shiny face, and I stopped off and I looked at what he was doing. And he was doing some things, and we got to talking. He told me that he was from Chicago, and he had come from a Hasidic background. Since I come from a similar background, we had a lot of things to talk about. He said he had just come out of Chicago. He had come into, he had admired Henry Miller very much, and he had wanted to do some things with him, and Henry Miller had suggested that, well, why doesn't he try his hand at art himself?
But the interesting thing is that Emil got the idea of painting watching me paint.
Yeah.
That was in the first cabin, Keith Evans' house.
The first 2 months.
Yeah, yeah.
So Henry had a little more wine and then started a watercolor and started dancing. I says, look at this. And I said, well, I said, Henry, I don't know anything about it. He says, well, why don't you try? You know? Just you try it.
But at any rate, he was doing something, and he had a number of things on easels, which were in the process of being finished. And some of them which had been finished. So somebody came along, somebody drove up in a fancy MG and drove up, looked around, and he saw something there. And he saw something he liked, so he asked him, what's the price of this thing here? So Emil said, it's not for sale. And he said, well, I'm interested in this. I haven't finished it yet, he said. I haven't finished it. He says, well, I like it the way it is right now. I want to buy it. Now, before this experience had happened, Emil had explained to me that he was living very frugally. He had something like around $15 or something had to face him for the rest of the month and how he lived. So he said then, so on the basis of that, he had such little money, I went to him and I said, why don't you sell him the thing? And the guy kept on insisting he wanted to buy it. And Emil just shook his head. He said, no, it's not finished yet. So the guy had to leave because he wasn't interested in anything else. So I went to Emil and I asked him, well, what's behind all this? You know, the guy wants to buy it and you confess the fact that you're very tight on money and stuff. And he looked at me and he said, it's not finished.
And I started painting, and I painted 12 pictures. And some woman came from Monterey and wanted to buy all 12. The woman who had the Mexican Idol shop.
Oh, yeah.
Paco Ferro's wife. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Paco Ferro. She wanted to buy all of them. I said, if you buy all, how will I tell that I'm an artist?
We are here. We are here. We are here, keepers of the garden. We are here. Where if not here? When if not now? Who if not you and me? I mean, really. Where if not here? When if not now? Who if not you and me?
Been coming here for about 30 years, that is to Big Sur. I made a pilgrimage to see Henry when I was about 21, and must have been a little later. And I spent most of 10 years in the company of Jean Varda and Alan Watts up in Marin County, and they spoke of Emil a lot. And about 8 or 9 years ago, I started really visiting with Emil, and I've also brought my wife Azar Dadgar to visit Emil, and he told us a story. First, I want to say his memory was so awesome that even in Mill Valley, where I've lived for 25 years, if I shave, my friends don't recognize me for 2 or 3 weeks, or if I grow a beard, you know, or if I glue my hair down with wallpaper paste, they don't notice that it's me for weeks and weeks. But I could drop in here every 6 months, walk through the door, and Emil would say, how's your book on photography selling? Or how's everything in Mill Valley? That was very, very touching for me and for us. Anyway, the story he tells, which you probably all know, but I love to tell it, is that he advertised for a live-in nurse or housekeeper on the bulletin board down at Esalen, and he specified about 6 qualifications: nursing experience, typing skills, cooking skills, and 2 or 3 other things. He got a phone call from an 18-year-old girl who'd been in residence down there, and they were trying to pry her out of there, so she needed to find a job. And she called him up and she said, I'd like to interview with you. And he said, well, can you cook? I'm very particular about what I eat. And she said, well, no, I don't actually cook, but I could learn. And he said, well, what about your typing skills? I have an international correspondence that has to be kept up with. And she said, well, I've never used a typewriter, but I know that if you were to teach me, I'd be... And so this went on for a while, and he says, hang on, may I ask you a question? Yeah. He says, why did you call me? You saw all the qualifications that I'm asking for. Why did you call? You don't have any of them. She says, wait till you see my tits. So he said, come on over. And he hired her.
And he had a lot of girls there.
2 girls.
Remember? 2, it seemed like it was 5 or 6.
This is for Emil, 88 turns.
Emil and who he really was. He was a guy with the girls. And I'll never forget the time I applied for a house cleaning job, and he got me up on the ladder And he was like an animal. You could be hugging him and all of a sudden he had his hand down your pants. I mean, Emil was just a wild guy. I remember the time that I spun for his 80th birthday. And it was a request that I didn't wear any underpants. Well, I did. You know, he loved it. And then about 4 years ago, he wasn't feeling good, so I came and did a little risque belly dance improvisation. And the nurse said it was enough. He was beginning to breathe.
My tribute to Emil. As a younger man, no wiser, I had the incredible experience to meet one of the finest comforters ever born. The best thing that I can say about this man is this. When he was 65, I was 21. We were both chasing the same women. And everyone went home with him. It took me a while to get over that. It's about 6 months or so, and then he did the kindest thing that any man could do for a man. And he put his arm around me and said, "Jaime, do you know why we are both here?" And I said, "No, why, Father?" "Because we're here to give women their first orgasm."
I've known Emil, knew Emil for many, many years. And all I can say is that where he is now, I hope he has as many women around him as he always had during his lifetime.
The wonderful thing is the expression on his face.
So it's a toast for us today and what Emil stood for me, and that was kindness.
Emil was just a wild guy.
What I have to say is about the beauty of his kindness.
And it was a request that I didn't wear any underpants. So I did. You know, he loved it.
That's the Emil I want to remember.
I see your smile in the sunlight. I hear your laughter in the rain. And I hold you close beside me. I know your love, and I feel your pain at this time when the earth is waking to the dawn of another age. I tell you now, there is no reason to be afraid. We are crying for a vision that all living things can share, and those who care are with us everywhere.